So, welcome on board the Aston Martin Vantage GT3 car here at the Nurburgring 24 Hours 2022 with me, David Pittard. So we start here on the Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit, a very small section of the entire just over 8-minute lap, but also a very crucial part here. You can still lose and gain a lot of time. We've used the first cut-through chicane, which is sort of homage to the original Nordschleife, which the Nordschleife and the Nurschleife combined way back in the 50s, I think it was, and then onto the full Grand Prix circuit here. Dropping down towards the Dunlop curve now. Big heavy braking zone into a very banked and long right-hander. Very tricky corner, you have to look all the way around to where the two BMWs are ahead now to then point the car back towards a very late apex to put all of the traction down. The Michael Schumacher S coming up fast here. Normally it's just half a lift to get the nose into the left and then full throttle through the right. Back over towards the right hand side here, again got to keep it neat and tidy through this first initial left. You can take all of the curb on the left hand side. We're driving into the sunset of the Nordschleife as well, which is a really cool time to be out on the circuit. Important to get a good exit here as we're now running up towards the Vidal chicane. Get a chance to look up the hill here during the races where you can keep an eye on your rivals and monitor the gap and normally how much you're catching them by per lap. 50-metre board on the right, down 2 gears, nail the curb on the left hand side, nail the curb on the right, use all the road towards the left, and then we come on from the Grand Prix circuit onto the Nordschleife. And it feels like you go back in time 50 years. You've just come off of a full Grand Prix circuit, and then you go back onto the most historic and old school circuits that there is. Suddenly there's no room for errors. We're coming down to the first section of the lap, which is hats and back. A very fast and flowing section of the lap where it's all about getting that rhythm and setting yourself up for the rest of the circuit. Heavy combined braking zone here, very tricky part of the lap. Back over to the right, nail the curb on the right hand side here as the car bounces over, and then use the camber of the road to then slingshot the car back out again. Important exit here as we then start the run out towards Flugplatz. We've done all the complicated technical part of the lap now. Now we can start to really put our foot to the floor and get up to speeds of over 250 kilometers an hour. Flugplatz, half a lift in, get the nose in, and then full gas for the rest of the corner through here. 5th gear, marshal post on the right hand side, we're shifting up to 6th. And then into my corner, Schwedenkreuz. Over to the right hand side, this is a scary corner, turn into 5k, hold on as you turn in, over the bump as the car goes light, a bit of air goes underneath, and normally you get a bit of understeer, which pushes you wide, but we've got the Vantage well set up to be full throttle through there, over 270 kilometers an hour. Big braking zone then into Arenberg. As you're coming now down the foxhole, you can normally feel your ears popping. You come into the compression, aim for the motorbike sign on the right hand side, small brake, down 1, smash the curb on the left, down 2 more gears as Adenauer force arrives extremely quickly. Now you've got to go from being very brave and committed to again being smooth and technical and precise to get through Adenauer force before then firing it back out towards Metzgerfeld 1. Again, another very daunting corner. The GT3 cars just get faster and faster every year here, and there's no brake, just a lift, back on the gas, and then heavy braking for Metzgerfeld 2 here. Again, got to be precise through here to then head over towards the left-hand side, heavy braking downhill, which is quite tricky as well. Hook up the second apex, use the road on the way out, and position the car for miss, hit, miss. So flat out through the left, flat out through the right here, small brake in 4th gear before picking up the throttle nice and early and trusting the aero in this corner. You can't see the exit and you're on the throttle before you can even see where the exit. There, Siphon, the slowest corner on the circuit down to 1st gear. Again, you've got to be nice and precise to get the exit out of here. On the left hand side is the Adenauer village and we're heading down to the famous Breisscheid Bridge. Heavy on the brakes at the end of the curb, very scary braking zone because there's a big scary looking concrete wall coming at you as you're going downhill braking. Exmoor is a very tricky corner, very tricky on traction. There's so much going on with the chassis in terms of going uphill, trying to get the traction right, and then we head through the flat out Lauda links where Niki Lauda had his incident in 1976, and then Bergwerk, one of the most important corners on the circuit now. Very banked, but it's important to be on the throttle so early as you're now just climbing from one of the lowest points of the circuit up to one of the highest, and you're on full throttle for 20 seconds or so. You almost get a chance to have a little reset through this part of the lap, especially in a GT3 car where you're just cruising through here at 240 k's, just at the top of 5th gear, and then into one of the, again, scariest corners on the circuit, mud curve here. A breath on the brakes, turn it in, back on the gas again to then use all of the road on the right-hand side here. Traffic is a big variable here at the Nordschleife that we're going to have to be dealing with over the 24 hours and such big closing distances as you're starting to see. Very tricky braking zone into Nordschleife, which is a very bumpy braking zone, and then heading up into the famous Carousel corner, slotting into the traffic here and then dropping into the Carousel and holding on. This jumping out of the Carousel really tests the traction control systems on all of the cars, as again the car is jumping, it's in the air, it's doing all sorts, so the computers are working so hard to give us the maximum power they can to drive us again up the hill into the steepest part of the lap here, which is up towards the Hoax part of the lap, one of the highest parts of the lap as well. Now we're coming to my favourite section. From this point here all the way till the end of the lap, you basically take a big breath and then just send it all through this section here. Get a chance to take a break on this lap here with an incident, so we're rolling through at code 120 initially before then slowing towards a code 60 zone, which is how the race series monitors incidents and accidents out on circuit. You see on the left hand side here all of the crazy scaffolding structures that the amazing and crazy Nurburgring fans build. It's like nothing else when you walk through that forest. I thought Le Mans was crazy when I went there, but this really is another level. Boost is loading as we then fire out of the code 60 zone into Brunchen and then the famous YouTube corner. Not much time to see the fans here, but during the night you will see the fireworks, you will see the flares, you will see the bonfires and smell the wursts cooking. Into Ice Curver, which in the wet is like ice. Take the curb on the right hand side, aim for the marshal post straight ahead and then full throttle down the hill. Flansgarten 1, this is the famous jumping corner. Small brake, jump, brake again, then down one gear, send it in and then full gas through this section here as well. Jumping over the hill here. Flansgarten 2, jumping again and then just holding on through here. First lap of the weekend here is always the most scariest because you really have to remind yourself how much aero grip these GT3 cars have, which is awesome fun. Bell off S's, tiny brake, down one gear, carry the speed into the fast first right, slow it down a little bit more precise for the left, and then into the Kleiner Carousel, down one gear, drop it in, again test the traction control limits to the maximum here, as we then fire out towards the end of the lap. Small brake into Gallenkopf here, aim for the marshal post again as another blind crest. Every time I'm signalling a marshal post it means I can't see the turning point, that's my only reference. Then you get a chance to actually take a breath. From Hoax section to this Dotting Her section is, it's exhausting. This is just a lap by itself, but when you're racing up to 35 more GT3 cars, this is where the action really starts to begin. You can't really overtake other GT3 cars out on circuit, but you'll see many slipstreaming battles here as again we're rising up to 270 kilometers per hour underneath the bridge, full throttle through the left here. Normally would be full throttle through here, but we've got a bit of traffic this lap. Resurfacing here this year has made it even easier, which is a shame. It takes out one of the bump and then get the car stopped from terminal velocity down to second gear to then fire out back onto the Grand Prix circuit, back onto a modern circuit, and that is one lap of the Nurburgring Nordschleife at the Nurburgring 24 Hours 2022.